Hi, welcome to Becky's Garden Paradise. Today I'm going to share a new way for you to preserve your ripe bananas. So a lot of times we use ripe bananas for smoothies or to make banana nut bread. Well, today I'm going to share my recipe for banana butter with you. So I have 3 bunches of ripe bananas, which is 20, so you'll need about 20 for this recipe. So 20 ripe bananas. And then I'm going to use 3 cups of white sugar and 3 cups of dark brown sugar. I have canning salt, because you'll need about a teaspoon or so of canning salt. And then I have cinnamon. I'm going to use a teaspoon or 2 of cinnamon, depending on how much you like the flavor of cinnamon. And then I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. You'll also need a half a cup of bottled lemon juice for this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and start peeling my bananas and putting them into a stock pot. I'm going to bring you along for that. Alright, so I have organic bananas here. I need to take the stickers off. This one even is starting to get a little bit fuzzy because it had like a cover. It was like a, I don't know what it was made out of. It felt like almost like latex, some kind of plastic rubbery kind of cover over the top of the bunch that I hadn't taken off. They came from the store like that. So I'm going to take the stickers off of each bunch. I am going to throw the stickers away, and I'm going to be composting these peels since they are organic. They'll add good potassium to the compost and the soil. Alright, I'm going to take the bananas off of this one. I'm just using the cutting board on top of my sink to extend my counter space since I have limited counter space in my little kitchen. That's all right. I make it work. So you see they come out easy. And then I'm going to throw away the yucky tip of the bunch. It probably, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt my compost. I have a bowl back here with stuff for compost. When I'm cooking, it's easy to just have a bowl or a container, you know, for you to put your scraps in so that when I'm done, I can just take it all out to my compost and dump it out there. So I already have my water bath canner heating up. This is a water bath canning recipe. I've made apple butter before, and this is actually my first time making banana butter, so I'm excited to share it with you. I have 12 half-pint jars in the water bath canner. I washed those up last night and had them ready to go, so now I'm just letting them sterilize as the water bath canner heats up. I don't have it turned up very high because I wanted to go ahead and start warming up because it does take a while for your water bath canner to heat up. But it's going to take a little bit for me to prepare the banana butter. You have to cook them down for a while. Alright, so once I get all these peeled and in the pot, I'll bring you guys back. Alright, so you can see I have a bowl full of the peels from the bananas, and then I have a stock pot full of the bananas. So they looked super ripe on the outside, but they weren't very ripe, you know. It was just the way that they ripened. I think that they had been refrigerated, and that's what caused them. Because they went straight from green to looking overripe. I didn't refrigerate them, but it looked like they had been refrigerated. So you can see how easy they mash up with my potato masher. And so I want to mash them up as good as I can before I get them onto the burner. And then I'm going to have them on medium-low heat because I don't want them to scorch. So I'm going to be careful in heating them up and start it off on medium-low. So I'm going to go ahead and get these mashed up, and I'll show you what it looks like once I get them on the burner. One more ingredient I need to get ready while I'm letting that warm up is the bottled lemon juice. So when you're canning, you want to use bottled lemon juice because it has a consistent acidity. So if you use fresh lemons, some lemons are more acidic than others. So for safe canning, you need to use bottled lemon juice. All right. It's also handy to have it, you know, for marinades and homemade salad dressings and things like that. So I'm going for a half a cup. So this makes it a safe canning recipe. There are different recipes for banana butter out there. I'm only using cinnamon. Some people like to use nutmeg, allspice. I've even seen people put pumpkin pie spice in their banana butter, but I'm going for a more simple banana butter. I don't want to overdo it on the spices, and I'd rather use pumpkin pie spice and like pumpkin butter. Okay. But if you like more spice, then by all means, you know, you can add nutmeg and allspice, depending on what you have a taste for or what you're looking for. So I have my half cup measured here. All right, so I have the stock pot on the burner. You can see how much liquid came out of the bananas. And I still have my potato masher because I want to continue to mash it up, but I am going to take the emulsion blender to it once it's heated up and boiling. So the way I'm doing it, because you want it to thicken, you want to cook some of the liquid out of it. So I have it mashed. I'm going to continue to mash it or stir it while it's heating up. I'm going to bring just the bananas to a boil, and then I'm going to emulsify them to get it nice and smooth. So I want a nice smooth texture. If you want it to be more chunky, then you don't have to use the emulsion blender. I want a smooth texture though, like a, you know, smooth buttery spread. And I was talking about different recipes for banana butter and how some people use different spices. A lot of people put nuts in the banana butter. So if you wanted to add nuts at the end, you could add, I know, talking hand. Let me turn you around so you can see me. All right, now you can see me. So if you want to add nuts to the recipe, you could add toasted chopped walnuts or pecans down here in the South. But you would add those at the very end before you start putting them in your jars. Again, I'm going for a more simple banana butter. And again, it's my first time making it, so I just want to keep it simple. So maybe in the future I'll try it with nuts, but I didn't want to add them this time. I've even seen a recipe, a Betty Crocker canning recipe for banana butter. You can find it online if you Google probably Betty Crocker banana butter canning recipe. That recipe even called for chopped up maraschino cherries, which I thought was very interesting, along with cinnamon. So that's something else you could try if you think you would like that. That reminds me more of like a banana split kind of butter. If you put the maraschino cherries in there, maybe it would be cool. So I told you my goal is to make at least, hold on, okay. Hopefully make at least 12 half pints of this. I've mentioned in some of my videos in the past how I like to give homemade gifts for Christmas and birthdays and things like that. So this is definitely going to be one of those items to add to my homemade gifts that I give to people this Christmas. You could give it away as a housewarming gift, birthday gift. And it's already starting to heat up some. I've already made my corncob jelly. If you haven't seen that video yet, I encourage you to go check that out. That was another super quick and easy recipe for a jelly to use that you can enjoy, you know, at home, or you can share as gifts. So I'm making the banana butter today that, you know, I'll give to some people as gifts. It's going to make the house smell really good. It already smells like bananas in here. And then once I get it heated up with the cinnamon, it's going to smell even better. Whenever you're making jams, jellies, butters, you always want to use a taller pot, because you want to prevent getting burned from the bubbling fruit. And then sometimes, especially with jams and jellies, they tend to foam up. And so you need to, you know, give them space to do that so that you don't end up with a mess if your pot boils over in your kitchen. So if you've been watching consistently, you probably noticed that I didn't make a video last weekend, but I did have a short that I posted on Monday evening letting you guys know that I had a bad cold, and so you could tell by my voice in that short that I didn't sound too hot. So I gave myself grace and let myself rest last weekend to help get over that cold. It's actually been 2 weeks since I first got sick, and I'm feeling much better. I still have remnants, like a little bit of congestion and stuff, but I'm doing much better. On TikTok, I had posted a couple pictures of the chicken and dumplings that I had made for myself to help nurse myself back to health. So I really think that good chicken broth helped with that. So I'm going to check my water bath canner. It still has a ways to go, which is okay because this banana butter has a ways to go. It's starting to bubble. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this this potato masher. Let me give it a rinse so it'll be easier to clean. Give it a good stir. You want to make sure it doesn't scorch on the bottom. This is not a thick bottom stock pot. If you can use a thick bottom pot, that's going to help you out a lot, help distribute the heat more evenly on your pot, and help decrease the chances. Now, stuff can still burn in a thick bottom pot, but it's a lot easier and quicker to burn in a thin stock pot. But I'm using what I have. Let me know in the comments if you've had banana butter before, or if this is new to you, if you plan on giving it a try. A couple months ago, I was in the canning section at Walmart, and usually go to the canning section, and they're around here at least. There's no one else in the canning section usually, you know. But I went to a Walmart further away from my house because, you know, some Walmarts have different things in stock. Like that Walmart happened to have the ball canning books. The Walmart near my house never has those. And so, you know, if I'm at a different store, I usually try to check the canning section to see if they have anything different. Like I've had a hard time finding pickle spice. They actually had pickle spice at that one. But anyway, there was a lady in the canning section the same time as me. And she started talking to me, and she was telling me how she has a big garden, and she cans all her own tomato products, and how, you know, her husband likes to see how happy and excited she gets when she has like so many tomatoes to can. She was telling me, you know, that none of her kids can. And that she was happy to see somebody young like me. Which is funny because when I'm around my students, I tell them I'm half old, you know, because I'm middle-aged. I'm only half old. But anyway, she was telling me how, you know, she really liked seeing someone young like me can, and that how a lot of people my age don't know how to can. And she told me to pay it forward. So sometimes I feel like people get put in your life to encourage you and give you reassurance. So I hope, you know, that by these videos that I'm helping you and encouraging you to give canning a try, or helping you get started with canning, or if you're already a canner, giving you new ideas and recipes to can. And that's my way of paying it forward. I didn't grow up canning. It skipped a generation in my family. My grandparents on my dad's side were from eastern Kentucky. My grandfather was a coal miner, and they lived in a mining camp. And even when they left Kentucky and settled in Ohio, my grandfather always grew a big garden. Everybody told me, you know, about his big garden that he used to grow. He even had a seed shop at one point. And that my grandparents canned a lot. Now, I never got to meet my grandfather, unfortunately. But my grandmother, I was a little girl. I don't know, I think I was about 4 years old when she passed. So I do have memories of her. I don't remember her canning or anything like that by then. You know, she was older. I would have loved to, you know, have been around to see their garden and see them can and learn from them. But my parents, they grew plants. They always had house plants, even if we lived in apartments. And whenever my dad had space to grow vegetables, you know, he would grow some. He never had a big garden, but I remember when I was a little girl, him growing radishes and bell peppers, and he had grapevines. I remember my dad pulling over on the side of the road to pick poke to take it home and cook it, and he used to do that. And I would never eat it when I was a little girl. I used to tell him that he was eating weeds, and he thought that was funny. But I wasn't raised canning. Never saw anybody do it in person. I got interested in canning when I started growing a garden, because I knew, you know, I was going to need to be able to do something with the food that I grow. And so that's how I got interested in canning. And I watched a lot of YouTube videos, YouTube University, and then I just finally, one year I grew so many cucumbers. I grew more cucumbers than I could eat. So that was when I first started canning. I made pickles. That was the first thing I ever canned, with cucumbers that I grew from my garden. And I still had reservations about pressure canning. But one year I grew so many green beans that I actually got tired of green beans. And I never thought I would get tired of green beans, but I had an abundance of green beans, and so I ordered my pressure canner and pressure canned green beans. That was the first thing that I ever pressure canned. And now I really like canning, and I can all different kinds of things. Sometimes I tell people, you know, that I've had some canning therapy when I've had a canning session. Because it's rewarding, it's relaxing, it takes your mind off of things, it slows you down. So, and I love having things on the shelf and, you know, grabbing different canned items that I have to make recipes with. I don't use my canned goods every single day, but some days I might use 4 jars, you know, for a meal that I'm making. So I use what I can. I was talking to my cousin yesterday, and I told her I'm not prepping for for Armageddon. You know, I have canned goods in there, but I go through what I can. Use what you can. And I'm just continuing to stir this, again, to keep it from sticking on the bottom. Once it finally comes up to a boil, I'll show you what it looks like when I emulsify it. Okay, so it came to a boil, and I put it on the counter on this towel so that I can use my immersion blender on it. So I'm going to start with the low setting. and use the high. So that's nice and thin. I don't see any more chunks. So I'm going to get it back on the stove, put it back on the heat, and then it's still hot. And I'm going to, once I get it back on the burner, show you the next step. Alright, so it's back on the burner. It's already starting to bubble again. And it's thin. And I also, know that when I use the immersion blender on it, it bubbled a lot. So it's like, putting air into it. It's thin. It's going to continue to cook down as I'm heating it up. I'm just stirring the sides to get all the goodness down in there. You guys know I like to bang my spoons on the pots if you've been watching. I'm going to go ahead and add the sugar. Again, it's 3 cups of white sugar and 3 cups of brown sugar. So I'm going to carefully add the sugar in. It's always helpful when you're canning to have your ingredients prepped ahead of time. Makes your canning more peaceful when you do it like that. And we're definitely going to have to keep stirring this. So the sugar is increasing the volume. And it's also going to increase the ease of sticking or burning. So we need to stir this hot banana puree to incorporate all of that sugar. And that is a lot of sugar, but it's going to make quite a bit of banana butter. And this is not something, that I would eat on a regular basis, just for a special treat on special occasions. So you can use this just like you'd use any, apple butter, pumpkin butter. You can put it on toast, on biscuits, on English muffins. Make sure you stir it really well to incorporate all that sugar. At this point, I'm also going to go ahead and add the salt, which is a teaspoon, and I always use canning salt or some kind of, you can use other salt. It doesn't have to be canning salt as long as it doesn't have iodine in it. So you could use like pink Himalayan salt, kosher salt, as long as it's not iodized. So there goes the teaspoon of salt. Go ahead and stir that in. You can see how it's already darkening in color. So I use dark brown sugar. You could use light brown sugar if you wanted to, but I wanted to use dark brown sugar because I knew it'd give it good flavor and also add to the color. And make sure you're really scraping every part of the bottom. Also, see there, you can see sugar on the tip of the spoon. That means there's sugar down on the bottom, so you want to make sure you're stirring it really, really good, because you don't want it. It's okay if it caramelizes, but you don't want it to burn. So the salt helps balance the flavor, and then the lemon juice helps, you know, give you the acidity to make it a safe canning recipe. It's also going to help balance the sweet, just like the salt. And then you can see that that thinned it out even more. But as it heats up, it's going to continue to thicken, especially, you know, because it's going to reduce from the steam evaporating. But also that sugar is going to thicken it as well. So we have a ways to go before it gets to the consistency that we're looking for. So I'm going to continue to stir this, bring it back up to a boil, and I'm probably going to continue to stir it once it's boiling to prevent it from burning and also allow it to reduce. And you notice at this point I have not added the cinnamon or vanilla yet. We're going to wait till toward the end before we add those ingredients. I'm going to continue to stir it like this. You don't want to leave it too long without stirring it. And I apologize for the lighting, because the way my kitchen is, my camera kind of blocks the light, but you guys can still see what I'm doing. You can see how thin it is. It's like a very thin, sugary applesauce kind of texture right now. Alright, so I wanted to bring you back so you can see how the consistency looks. So it's a lot darker and it is thicker. You can see how it clings to the spoon like that. And I didn't time how long it took to get to this point, but I know that it was a long time because it's 2 o'clock now. So I'm thinking maybe I was out stirring it. Sorry, the water bath canner got me. For like 45 minutes. It could have been longer. There's a little bit of chunk here and there, but not that much because I took the emulsion blender to it. So I wanted to show you what it looks like. Once it gets to this point, I've turned the heat off. It's an electric stove, burner's still hot, continuing to lit it. You can see how it's still bubbling. I'm going to go ahead and add the vanilla and the cinnamon at this point. Alright, so I have my cinnamon. Gonna add a good teaspoon. And see how I like it. So I am gonna do a little taste test before I jar it up. And this vanilla has barely any in there, so I'm not even gonna count that. I'm always a fan of going on the heavy side with vanilla. So that was a good teaspoon and a half of vanilla, but again, I'm going to do a taste test in a minute. Let me stir that in. So I waited until the end. After it had gotten to the consistency that I was looking for, right before, you know, I started getting ready to jar it up. You want to make sure you stir it in really good. And it's going to continue to thicken as it cools. And again, I'm just stirring down the sides from where, you know, it'll start to stick to the sides. I can feel, you know, it's continuing to thicken up as it's cooling down. Sorry, I kicked you guys. I smell the cinnamon, that's for sure. And this is one of the things that the flavors will continue to develop after it's been canned. So if you know, wait, I like to wait a couple weeks, you know, but at least a week, you know, or two, then the flavors are going to be richer once it's had time to sit up. I smell the cinnamon. My son is not a fan of bananas. When he was a little kid, he could eat like 3 bananas at a time, and now he's not a fan of bananas. I know other people that enjoy bananas. Alright, let me get a spoon so I can do a taste test real quick. Just gonna put a tiny bit. I know it's gonna be sweet, and you gotta make sure you blow it. I'm going to show you guys so you can see how thick it is. And it's going to continue to thicken up as it cools. After it's been canned. I'm just blowing it real quick. Tastes really good. I think I'm going to add a little bit more vanilla for mine. The way I like vanilla. I want to taste the vanilla. Okay. You can taste it, but I want a little bit more in there. I'm going to add another teaspoon. Let's see. Jars are definitely ready. The canner's definitely, the water by the canner's definitely ready. And if you're new to canning, this is what's known as a hot pack recipe, because you have a hot product that you are putting into hot jars into a hot canner. So you always want the temperature of the product in the canner to be the same, because you want to prevent thermal shock, which could cause your jars to crack or even shatter. So for your safety and to prevent, you know, disasters in the canner, wasted products, always make sure that your product and the canner are the same temperature. If you're doing something cold pack, so cold food going into cold jars in a cold canner. But this is hot pack, so everything's piping hot. Alright, I'm going to do one more taste test. Just make sure vanilla's on point. Make sure I don't want to go back and add any. The canner is hot. Here we go. I'm just going to pour it on there. Look how nice and thick it is. Woo, it looks good. Okay. Just a little taste real quick. Just to show you guys close up. It's so nice and thick. I'm gonna add some more. Let me add another spoon of cinnamon, just for good measure. I got my half a teaspoon out, so I'm gonna, because the other one, my teaspoon is wet with vanilla. I'm just gonna go ahead and add. And that's gonna be it for that. Ooh, kicking you guys, sorry. And stir this in real good. And then get my jars out of the canner and get them ready to load. I know this is a longer video, more in-depth, step-by-step, so hopefully you guys like the being able to see the whole entire process. I know with one of my bean videos, someone asked about the actual process. So, try to help you guys out. Show you more step by step. Alright, so it's stirred really well. Smells really good. You smell the cinnamon especially. Alright, now I'm going to get this over to the counter so I can load it up with you guys. Okay, so I got about half the jars out. I'm going to grab my ladle. Got my canning funnel in the jar. Again, these are 1/2 pint jars. I got a towel down to protect my counter. I'm going to do 1/2 inch headspace. Carefully remove the funnel, try not to make a mess. I need to add a tiny bit more. Oh, there I go. So much for not making a mess. And the way I know it's a 1/2 inch is from the lines on the side of the jar. That's what I use to measure. Again, carefully remove. This one I overfilled a little bit, but I can grab another spoon and just scoop that out. So if you look at the lines, and be careful, your jar is going to be hot. Actually, you know what? That's like a 1/4 inch. Got my paper towel handy to wipe the rims. So the higher line is a 1/4 inch, okay? And then when I turn the jar around this side, you can see the line in the middle of the jar. That's the 1/2 inch line. So I'm just gonna scoop that out and put it in the next jar. Let's see how. Yeah, that looks like it's good. Good with that. This is a clean spoon. Let's see how that is. A little tiny bit more. Okay. Smells really good. Banana, vanilla, cinnamon. And the color is really good too. I like the color also. You fill them up just like this. This is like when you're finishing the race and you can see the finish line once you get to the point where you're loading your jars. Because the stirring it and reducing it down, that is the part of this canning recipe that takes the longest. But it's worth it because you end up with some yummy banana goodness in the end. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. I'm making a little bit of a mess, but that's alright. I'm going to clean it up when I'm done. It's hard to do this and not make a little bit of a mess at least. I try to be careful, but you know. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now that you have your jars filled, I have a paper towel. You can use a rag. Gonna dip it into the hot water from the canner. Be careful because the water's hot. And then you're gonna wipe your rims to make sure that there's no sticky goodness on the rims that would interfere with your seal. I feel like this one is a little bit, it looks like it's right there. I thought it looked like it was a little bit open, but when I look at the side, it's level. I did a pretty good job at not slopping it on my rims. Oh, I don't want to do, okay. That's not always the case. Got a clean paper towel. Okay, now I'm going to get my clean lids. I washed with hot soapy water. The old school way was to sanitize the lids. You don't have to do that anymore as long as you're canning something for 10 minutes or longer. So I just make sure they're good and clean. These are ball canning lids. I'm just using these for my water bath canning. At this point, since I have better lids that I like to save for pressure canning, the ball lids still work fine the majority of the time. So it's okay to use those for pressure canning too. If that's what you have, use what you got. But a lot of people are moving away from using ball because they say that the quality is going downhill. Alright, so this is filled. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the water bath canner. And I did it fingertip tight. You notice I used the towel when I grabbed it because it's going to be hot. Fingertip tight just until you feel resistance. You're not cranking down on it. Okay. I put a finger down in the middle of the lid. Put the ring on. Finger or two. And then I just turn with like 2 fingers until I meet resistance. 2 or 3 fingers. You want any air in there between the product and the lid to be able to escape during the canning process in order to create that vacuum seal. Okay. Once you get them all loaded up, you're going to process these for 10 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rings on the rest of these. I didn't debubble since it's a liquid. If you feel more comfortable debubbling, then go ahead and have at it. Be careful, again, it's hot. Yep. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put these into the canner. Take the other 6 jars out, see how many I end up with. I'll show you once I get the canner loaded. Once I get all the jars in there, just an FYI, let me straighten this back out. I will put a splash of vinegar in there, and that'll help cut down on the hard water, build up on the outside of the jars. The canner's already real hot, which will be a good thing when it comes to bring it up to a boil. the jars dance around, you know, they move around a little bit in the canner, so gotta shuffle jars around to get them out. This is one thing, the Walmart canning tongs, they always come apart right here. One day I'm gonna get, well, you know what, these are actually Ball brand, let me not say. Ball brand canning tongs, the cheap ones. They come apart a lot. One day I'm gonna invest in a better quality pair. They snap right back together, but it's aggravating because they want to come apart so easy. Like it just now came apart again while I was trying to get a jar out of the canner. See there? Okay. Alright, got my jars out, and I'm going to get these bad boys loaded up. Show you how many I end up with in just a minute. Okay, so I finally got the jars in the canner, and I ended up with 10 half pints, which is good. I'm going to just put a splash of vinegar in the pot, and that's going to help cut back on that hard water build up on the outside of the jar. So if you get jars out of the canner that look white and cloudy, that's from hard water. Alright, so I'm just waiting on the canner to come up to a rolling boil. Once it comes up to a rolling boil, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And then once the timer goes off after 10 minutes, I'll turn the burner off, remove the lid, and then let the jar sit in the hot canner for 5 minutes. So I'll set the timer for 5 minutes. And then after that 5 minutes, I'll be able to remove the jars from the canner, and I'll leave them on my countertop for 12 to 24 hours, and then I'll clean them up, remove the rings, check the seals, get them labeled, and get them put on my pantry shelf. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and put a list of the ingredients here for you so that you can take note of that if you need to, just to double check and make sure that you didn't miss anything. If you are new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, I just want to thank you for continuing to watch my videos and share my videos. So my channel has been growing slowly but surely. If you know anyone that would like this recipe, please share this video with them. And I look forward to seeing you again soon here at Becky's Garden Paradise. Have a great day.